That's not just the sound of that first sip of Morning Joe. It's the sound of someone shopping for a car on Carvana from the comfort of home.
That's a good blend.
It's time to take it easy, like answering some easy questions to get pre-qualified for a car in minutes.
Talk about starting the morning right.
Just like customizing your terms so your car fits your budget. Visit Carvana.com or download the app to experience car shopping the way it should be. Convenient, comfortable. Ah.
Man, that sunset is gorgeous.
Grill, patio, sunset. Hard to get better than that. Unless you're browsing Carvana's inventory while you soak it all in.
Oh, burger time.
So sit back, get comfortable. Carvana's got thousands of cars under $20,000 just waiting for you.
I could stay here forever.
Carvana, where car buying meets comfort, meets convenience. Download the app or visit Carvana.com today.
Welcome to the Growth Mindset Podcast. With me, your host today, Sam Harris. On this show, we believe anyone can achieve their dreams. We break down things like what it takes to lead explosive tech businesses, to being paid to travel the world. Basically, I find amazing individuals doing cool things and share my insights. Hi, thanks for downloading another episode of the podcast. Today, we're talking about travel. My guest is Helena Smith. She is a travel writer for Rough Guides and a self-published author of Inside Hackney and another book about Hackney called Eat Hackney. If you've ever had a wanderlust spirit and you like adventuring out the door and doing cool, exciting things, then this is a good podcast for you. Helena has a great attitude towards taking opportunities and doing things whether or not you're actually good at them, which is a perfect example of the growth mindset. And so I really hope you can learn some of her attributes, attitudes, skills, whatever. Just learn. Anyway, we recorded in a park, which failed as there was kids everywhere, and then we tried to sit under a bush for a while near a church, but the bush kept on getting in my face, so that also failed. And eventually we broke into the church to record there, and I'm happy to report that the sound inside a church is great, and we might go to more churches in the future so that you have nice listening. Anyway, it was a really insightful podcast and fun, and I hope you enjoy it. So there we go, podcast with Helena.
What's your name?
My name's Helena Smith.
Okay, and how do you introduce yourself?
I'm a travel writer and photographer.
Okay, cool. How long have you been a travel writer and photographer?
I've been working in travel, I guess, for about 20 years. So I worked on the staff at Rough Guides. I did that for 9 years and then went freelance. So I've been freelance, I guess, maybe 11, 12 years, something like that. So freelance, initially working mostly as a photographer for Rough Guides, and then moving into travel writing and research. So I work for Rough Guides, mostly at the moment for Lonely Planet, and I've worked for Time Out and a few other companies as well.
Cool. So that sounds like a dream job. Would you describe it as you're living the dream? Or just taking the job?
It's a great job, I guess. Maybe I've had points where I've felt a little blasé about it, but for about the first 2 years, I remember points where I was just so excited about it that I would burst into tears. I just couldn't believe. I'd been in an office job for a long time, and I couldn't believe the physical freedom of it and the excitement about going to different places.
I bet. That's, the fact you get paid to do traveling and just seeing things seems amazing. How did you go through the process of leaving your job and becoming a travel writer?
I guess it was quite natural in the sense that I was working for a travel company. It was kind of reassuring to go freelance and essentially be working for the same company for quite a long time. Obviously, I had great contacts there and felt kind of maybe more secure doing it than other people would.
So what contacts did you need to be able to do it then?
What I actually had, as well as contacts, was contracts. I was contracted to do quite a bit of work, so I probably had about 6 months' work lined up when I left. The different companies work in different ways. So Rough Guides worked maybe more through kind of personal connections. And then Lonely Planet works in a more formal way. So when I thought it would be good to expand and work for other clients, I got in touch with them, and then I went through a sort of process of becoming a Lonely Planet author, which has got lots of different stages. You apply, you have to do a written application, so you have to go somewhere you don't know and write about it in Lonely Planet style, and that's assessed. And then you have an interview and references and so on, so it's all quite formal. And then the way they work is they have a sort of pool of authors. I think it's around 150 authors. And they like to guarantee that they actually have work for people who've been bothered to go through the process of getting onto the books. So they don't keep expanding their author pool. They try and have a good balance between work available and people to do the work.
So for someone that hasn't got any experience or any contacts, how would you go about breaking into being a travel writer?
I think you have to write. You have to write about any kind of experience, and it doesn't necessarily, obviously, have to be particularly far-flung or exotic. I think you can write interestingly about places that are very close to home and that you know really well. I think it's very easy now to get published because you can do it yourself, so just start a blog. And what I ended up doing, having done travel writing for a long time, is I looked for what I was looking for abroad at home. So I started blogging and writing about my own area, and that's turned into a second career for me. So I write about Hackney. It started off as a blog about food and community, but then I turned it into a guidebook project. So I publish a guidebook about Hackney now. So I think there's sort of plenty of interest close at hand, really.
Okay, cool. So be more observant of what is around you. Like, if you think you can be a good writer in like the wilds of Peru or something, then
you can write.
You should prove that you can be a good writer here at home. And
definitely, and you might find it just as interesting as being in Peru, I guess. And also you might find a whole load of Peruvians living in London, which would be a great story. So
okay, that's an interesting take on it. Okay, and can you take me through the sort of process that you went through, as in like during your working days, or like what a standard like contract entailed?
The kind of work I do, I guess they're quite long-term projects. So you might be contracted 6 weeks in advance. So you have kind of, in theory, a lot of time to plan your trip and think about it, which differs from place to place. I tend to be somebody who likes to wing it a bit and leave some space in an itinerary for things to go wrong or to
if you're writing
change.
for people that haven't planned too much,
then
it's kind of good. Although I guess maybe you're more writing for the people that do plan.
Yes.
I don't know, what's your market? Let's keep that for later and carry on with the current question, which is like...
I guess what you're really doing is you're trying to experience most of what I do is updating existing guidebooks. I think the way the companies I work for work is that they've been around for maybe 20 years. So the guides are mostly have been around for 20 years too. And so you're updating existing content. So I think you're kind of experiencing what a user of the guide would experience, but you're experiencing it maybe in a more intense way. So you kind of have to try and do everything and see everything. So everything's kind of heightened, I guess, because you're also trying to observe it and think about it and write about it and take notes. And it can be like just a very souped up version of a holiday, I guess. So this isn't an example of a day-to-day thing, but I went to West Africa for Lonely Planet recently and started in Lagos and then went across the entire country, so west to east, and then came back to Lagos. And people in Lagos that we stayed with just couldn't believe how much we'd seen in a relatively short space of time, just moving on every sort of 2 or 3 days. And so you would never choose to do that on holiday because it was kind of a bit exhausting, but it was also really exciting, I guess.
Do you try, if you said you had 2 or 3 days in one place, do you try and stay a different night in like a different hostel or hotel?
Yeah, ideally you do that.
I guess you have to go see all of them just to check their prices.
Yes.
But then,
sometimes that can make it just even more grueling because if you're away for a long time, then it's kind of impossible to sort of wash any clothes and do any of the practical things you need to do. So sometimes I will just base myself in one place and then just try and roam around all day and visit accommodation places and eating places and sites. And
Yeah, I take time
things.
to like see all the accommodation and like do the sites and
Yeah.
eat in as many restaurants as possible.
Yes,
It seems like pretty jam-packed.
it is jam-packed. Yeah, it's exhausting. And yeah, it's interesting. Sometimes, I guess mostly I've done these trips on my own. Sometimes I've taken friends with me, and that can work really well, or it can actually work really badly if people are not prepared for the fact that it's actually a job,
Yeah.
and that it's not kind of a particularly normal way of experiencing a place. So people either have to go with the flow and come with you, or just be prepared to do their own thing.
I was going to ask, does it get a bit lonely if you're doing it by yourself when you're not kind of like able to just sort of randomly go with whatever you like? You just meet a person in a hostel and you're traveling and it's cool, okay, we're buddies, we can just do something for the next few days.
Yeah.
If you're like, oh, actually I have this agenda, I can't really like
Yes.
be like a normal social person.
Yeah, you can't
travelling.
be a normal social person, and it does get really lonely. I think that's the definite downside to it. I think you can meet some really fantastic people, but also I think it depends on the country. So I was in Greece recently on my own, and that was a great place to be on my own. I think it's a lot about other people's perceptions, and it obviously was not perceived as a strange thing to do. But the worst place I went on my own, not that it's a bad place, but it was a bad experience on my own, was actually northern Spain, because it was an area where Spanish people go on family holidays.
Yeah.
So I was the only person not in a family. People were eating these giant communal paellas, and I really wanted to try it, but they were just absolutely enormous.
Yeah.
And people were drinking cider, so they've got this tradition of pouring cider kind of from a great height.
yes.
Yeah.
You have to buy like a huge jug.
You
or
have to buy a
something.
huge bottle, and I thought if I drink that, I'm just
Yeah.
under the table. But I was dying to try it, and I was literally splattered with it because people are pouring it all the time. So
Yeah.
I did
pretty
feel a
harsh.
little, just
do
a bit
you-
lonesome.
Do you ever
So-
get to go couch surfing? Because that's something I really enjoy when I'm traveling sometimes, to really get like a feel of like a local place is actually if you have a local host. But
I guess
if
I've
you're meant to
done-
be staying in places. then it's
Yeah,
hard.
I've done a lot of Airbnb for just holiday kind of trips,
Yeah.
and a bit for work trips as well. I did that I went to Kenya, again for Lonely Planet, and I did Airbnb in Mombasa because I felt like I really wanted to stay in a Kenyan-owned establishment, and there were lots of kind of international hotels, and I think that gave me an insight into local life that I would not have got otherwise. So it was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Have you had any like? Well, I guess you must have a few stories of just random stuff that's happened to you whilst traveling. Like, I was in a Mexican village one time, and there's just this random wedding was going on, and next thing we were the English guests to this Mexican wedding, and
Yeah.
like, have you had many things like that happen?
I think that I keep harping on about West Africa because it's a fairly recent trip, but it's also one that kind of blew my mind, I suppose,
Yeah.
in lots of ways culturally. But we happened to be there we were in Benin for the coronation of the Oba, for the king of Benin, and the previous coronation was in the late 70s. The one before that was in the 1930s, so it does not happen very often. And again, I think people assumed because I was a Westerner that I was there for the coronation, although I had no idea it was happening till the day before. So we managed to gate crash that, and that was a truly amazing experience and a real privilege, actually. So, yeah.
And any good stories of illnesses, travel diarrhea, these things?
I've been kind of pretty okay illness-wise. Yeah, I don't think I've had
Wow.
any mishaps.
Have you been to
No.
India?
I've been to India and I was fine.
No?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
That's good. I had a bad one. I was doing the Machu Picchu trail for had 2 days of really bad diarrhea, which is awkward when you're trying to hike. And we had the one night where it was part of our group, we were in this dorm where it was the toilet was part of the room, but there was no there was kind of just a shower curtain that you couldn't even draw across.
Oh no.
And it's just well, I'm gonna have diarrhea, guys.
It's fairly intimate.
Yeah,
Oh dear.
that was pretty explosive. And but since then I've been fairly comfortable with bodily functions in public and stuff, and so maybe that was life.
Life-changing.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm racking my brains, but I actually can't really think of anything, so I've obviously been very lucky.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Have you witnessed any like major issues to people, like any armed robberies or?
I have been robbed at gunpoint myself.
Yeah?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
in Naples. I was there
No way.
for Rough Guides, and
It's in Italy.
yeah.
That's the only place where I've been. Wasn't actually robbed. They thought we were someone else, and then it turns out like, oh, you're English, whatever. Move on. And we're like, okay, bye.
Oh.
Run away. Scary gun.
Yeah.
But your story.
Yes, I was there with a friend from Rough Guides, and we had the Rough Guide video camera, and we were staying in the top of the town, and we kept seeing the same two guys on a motorbike kind of staring at us, but the place is full of staring people on motorbikes,
Yeah.
so we didn't think much of it. And then got to the top of the hill, and they came towards us with a handgun, basically, shouting at us, trying to steal the camera. And I had the brilliant idea of thinking, no, you're not going to have the video
Yeah.
camera. So we had a kind of three-way tussle going with, I was trying to pull it from my friend, saying, don't give it to them. And the guy was trying to pull it away from both of us. And that seemed to go on for quite a long time. And then my friend very calmly said, I think we should let this one go. So we let
Take the
it
memory
go.
card quickly.
No, there was, well,
Before
we
then.
weren't thinking quickly enough, I guess. But actually, it was kind of more scary in a way, reporting a crime to the Naples police than actually being robbed. That was
Yeah.
a fairly intimidating and
Oh wow.
weird experience. So,
they went
yeah.
to like fight these robbers, but then the actual
Yeah.
police. Right. So yeah, when I had my before when the iPhone was there, but you could get like the iPod Touch that was like the same thing. I was in Bolivia. I had that stolen, and but I had to report it to the police so I could claim it on insurance and stuff. But they came and like completely like went through everything in our hostel room, just searching for anything to see if we had it, so they could like charge me loads for like misreporting it or if I
Yeah.
had any drugs or anything else. And
Oh,
it was
dear.
kind of way scarier than just not bothering.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
like,
that doesn't
okay,
sound great.
didn't want to turn it into a day like interrogation of
Oh, no,
myself.
it's-
So yeah, police in dodgy countries. But so far we've confirmed that Italy is the most dangerous place on the planet. Apparently,
Well, I think Naples has got a bit of a reputation, but it's also it's
it was
it's an
lovely, I went
incredible
there.
city. Yeah,
earlier this year actually. It's good.
I think you sound
Wait,
better
yeah.
travelled than me. Actually.
It can't be quite true. Like, if you've been traveling, I mean, I guess you must have done a lot of travel before you started, right?
We lived in Africa when I was a kid, so lived in Malawi for 2 years,
Wow.
which probably gave me gave me the idea of being at home in different countries. I guess before I got going in the job, I'd travelled pretty widely, but not massively. I don't kind of collect countries, I guess. There are places that I love going back to, so I do love going to Italy. I just kind of spend quite a lot of time there.
As someone that travels a lot, what do you pack?
As little as possible. I guess I always have to take worky things, so I always have to take a laptop and a camera, and that's fairly bulky and heavy. And I like to buy clothes when I'm, say in India, or
Yeah.
I was in Greece recently and bought an entire summer wardrobe there for about the
Nice.
third of the price that it would be here. So yeah, just not very much. I guess always a novel and a
So you're not
pair
a
of
Kindle
sunglasses.
person?
I'm not actually. No, I'm a flicky book person.
Yeah. So that changed the game for me, right?
Yeah, I'm sure it would be.
Because I was kind of like 3 or 4 books at a time.
Yeah.
Like, in my gap year.
Yeah, no, it's really practical, I
Nightmare.
guess. But
Yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah, I do quite like going to places in like the clothes that I'm about to throw out, or like
Yeah.
at least like,
yes,
and then
starting over.
just get something new. Or sometimes people will trade them with you just because if it's like an English brand or something. And
Yeah.
you'll end up with something really cool.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
they're also really happy with something, and you're like, I don't know, maybe
Yeah.
I didn't even want to say it's nice. Do you just take hand luggage, or do you have like full stuff?
The last few trips I've done, I've tried to just take hand luggage. Yeah. Which is partly saving a bit of money and faffing around, but also I find it a good discipline for just not taking very
Yeah.
much, because quite
Just
often I'll go with
restricts
a
you.
bigger bag and not end up using half of it.
So I find I really dislike packing and repacking and like the whole like faff of traveling if I have
Yeah.
more stuff. Whereas if
Yes.
I've got nothing, I don't have to think so much because it's just like, oh, I'll just pack instantly and I'll just
Yeah.
go somewhere, and
Yeah.
it just makes the whole process more enjoyable.
Definitely.
Which I didn't realise for my gap year when I was younger.
Oh,
Like I went to Mexico for 2 months a few years ago, but with
Mm.
just hand luggage. Like, and the airplane wouldn't even let you have more than 6 kilos worth of hand luggage.
Oh.
So it was super harsh, but actually quite good, because the whole time I was in Mexico, I was like, oh yeah, whatever, I'll just do this thing. And
yeah.
didn't really hitchhike much there, but if you are wanting to hitchhike, it kind of helps not have too much stuff
Yeah.
as well.
I think it's true of life generally, though.
Yeah.
The more you accrue, the more difficult it is to move around, you know, if it's furniture or whatever it is. So, it's kind of a good life lesson, maybe.
So have you accrued much stuff now since you've moved back? Or, well, since you've been more based in London again?
I've just shed a whole load of stuff. So I've just moved house and got rid of all my furniture, which felt pretty good. So, yeah.
That's cool. I like getting rid of stuff. So what do you now with the Inside Hackney? Exactly, is that blog or
it's
business?
It's a book. It's a physical guidebook.
Oh, right.
And my idea was that kind of started because I did a project for Rough Guides, which was about the borough of Hounslow, which is on the other side of London to me. But it was partly doing that, and then also the fact that I was blogging about Hackney, and I kind of thought it's a pretty amazing and fascinating place, very multicultural place, and there was no guide. There aren't a huge number of formal sites, but there are some, and they're pretty interesting. And I think it's a great place for community projects, for live music, for interesting eating, all sorts of different things. I also do interviews in the book, and there are endless number of interesting people to interview. So I kind of had the idea that I wanted it to be like a present, that you would find it somewhere and you kind of couldn't believe it was free, I guess. But to do that, you have to raise a lot of money, and that's the difficult bit. Yeah.
Okay, how would you go about doing that?
I've done 2 editions, and for both of them, I raised about a third of the money doing a crowdfunder.
Yeah, oh, cool.
And then selling adverts, basically. So it's not supported directly by Hackney Council, but some of the council departments bought adverts for their individual services.
Yeah.
And then a few kind of more commercial places.
So quite an entrepreneurial activity then.
Yeah, I'm not very good at it, so it's a real struggle. I find it really difficult. I'd much rather somebody else was doing it.
Yeah.
But I kind of persevere because I like the end result, I guess.
Yeah, I might know some people that sort of do more finding people to sell adverts to for publications that maybe could help.
That would be amazing. Yeah.
But that's another conversation. Cool. What, as you've been around the world a lot, do you think more people should understand but don't?
Gosh, hold on, I'm going to have to think about that.
Yeah,
it's
it's
a really interesting
hard question.
So what should more people understand?
Or no?
I guess the places where I've learnt most myself personally were what you'd call poor countries, developing countries. I did a village stay in Kenya, in the Masai Mara, and I think that sort of changed my life here, made me more of a community-focused person. They were doing a small safari camp and a village stay project, and then putting any revenue from that into a primary school, a water well, a health centre, and it just felt as if, although materially by our standards they didn't really have anything, that they were successful and happy, I guess. So that was a really good life lesson for me. And I think Fiji, similarly, I found that people seem to have, well, it was maybe a superficial view, but a kind of high level of contentment in what's sort of technically, I guess, a very poor country.
So there's like desires and needs to have things that they can't
Yeah,
get and
yeah.
just happy with what they have.
Yes, and a focus on kind of family and community, communal activities. So,
Okay, that's cool. So you can be happy just by not thinking so much about what everyone else is doing or being affected by like other social pressures and just...
Yeah. I think it encouraged me. I don't think I would have done the Inside Hackney project without those experiences, because it just encouraged me to pay more attention to my locale, I guess, to what's close at hand. I did another project. I have a food blog called Eat Hackney, and I turned that into a recipe book. So I've been collecting recipes from people and realised I could turn it into a book, and kind of thought a lot about the format and I kind of thought there's a whole load of cookbooks out there, who needs another one. So I decided to do it as a fundraiser for 2 local charities whose focus is on food. There's
Yeah.
North London Action for the Homeless and the Hackney Migrant Centre, who both, they do other activities, but they basically feed people. So I kind of thought, for me, it was kind of important to think about food in the context of people who kind of don't have enough to eat, I guess. And yeah, so that was another, this feels like a tangent. But anyway, I guess another community project I did that maybe was inspired by trips I've made further afield. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
On the subject of food, do you follow any kind of diet?
I've become a vegetarian, but only very recently.
Yeah,
so
me too.
I haven't been anywhere so far where that's been a problem. Yeah.
But I guess you've been to places where you think it would have been an issue.
Would have been pretty difficult in the Masai Mara because that
Yeah.
was a very meaty, beefy diet. I'm not quite sure how I would manage that. To be honest, I might just eat meat if
Yeah,
all
if you
else
have to.
failed. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering, when I was in Mexico, it was also kind of hard, but I was still like semi-ish vegetarian.
Yeah.
But so what drove you to be a vegetarian?
I became a vegetarian in California, and it was because of a little dog. I can trace it back to this dog.
Okay.
We just we kind of dog sat and hung out with this dog all the time, and he just seemed to have such a strong personality. Personality was the only word I could use, and quirks and things. And I kind of had animals that I'd been fond of before. I was always a catty person, but I thought cats were just different and special. And then I thought dogs are different and special, and maybe like cows and chickens are different and special too. And I just couldn't bring myself to do it anymore. So
Okay, cool. And how was the transition? Was it so you just had that thought and was like, okay, no more meat ever? Or
no,
did you
it was
sort
a sort of a bit of a crossover period, I
Yeah.
guess. And then I just realised that I haven't had any meat since Christmas, and I just don't
Yeah.
want to do it again. So
Okay,
yeah.
cool. Yeah, because it took me like quite a few years of being like increasingly vegetarian to the point where like I stopped craving it so much and then kind of just stopped even enjoying it that much.
Yeah.
And I think that literally this Christmas was like the last time I really sort of ate meat, except for like one point I fell off. Like I was in Greece. But yeah, so I quit. Well, I was planning to quit like on January 1st, but after Christmas I just didn't even need to bother
No.
before January 1st. Even though that's when I put it in my mind when I do it.
Yes.
And then I went like 3 months without any meat. And then in Greece I think I was sick of the exact same thing to eat for like 3 weeks on end.
Yeah.
And then like I was being in this cafe where they didn't have any option apart from the chicken burger.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, screw it, I'll have this. And I hated it.
Oh,
and so I definitely feel more comfortable now that I could just be a vegetarian sort of for even longer. So
Yeah.
if you track it on a curve of how vegetarian I've been,
Yes.
it's now like, okay, definitely I'll probably that'd be me forever.
Yeah.
Where I was just thinking I'll try doing it for like a year.
Yes.
So it's going well.
Oh,
Do you try vegan stuff as well, or are you just purely vegetarian?
I'm happy to. I'm actually pescatarian, so
Yeah?
I eat fish. Yeah,
Okay.
see how that goes. But it definitely makes it easier. Say in Greece, for example, if you eat fish,
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
lots of
You have
lovely
like fish and cheese
choices.
and things.
Yeah,
It's not really a problem at all.
yeah.
Okay. What is your favourite meal?
Oh, gosh, sorry, I'm going to have to think again.
And is it in your cookbook?
Oh,
Because if it's not,
okay.
what?
Yeah, I've got a favourite meal from my cookbook. I've got a few favourite meals. There's a mung bean curry, which doesn't sound very interesting, but every time I make it, people just absolutely love it. And it's really popular. When I look at kind of hits on recipes that I've published on my blog, the mung bean curry comes out top every time. So that's really good. And then there's a Sri Lankan fish curry in there that's kind of quite mind-blowingly hot, but that's really, really
Nice.
good as well. Yeah,
I love spicy food
yeah,
and curries in general.
yeah.
Cool. So was that, you found that from people in Hackney, or you,
Yeah, so basically every time I blog about somewhere, I ask people for a recipe. So the mung bean curry came from Gujarati Rasoi, which is a local Gujarati restaurant. They started out as a market stall, and now they've got a little restaurant in Hackney, and they just use their family recipes. So the recipes are really good. And the Sri Lankan curry came from a volunteer for the North London Action for the Homeless, and she was a fellow volunteer. She was a nun, a Sri Lankan nun. I had this great recipe. So
oh cool.
yeah.
It's interesting. So she was just like one of the people that you interview for your...
She was just, I wanted to take just a recipe from each of the projects that I was fundraising for. So she just suggested that, really, and I tried it and it was really amazing. So yeah, people have very different ways of writing recipes, especially I think if they're really recipes that come from people's heads that haven't been written down. So you have to do a lot of testing and interpretation to get it right. But that's a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, and then who were the sort of people that you do interview then?
For
the local...
For Inside Hackney, there's a lot of people, let me think. Recently, I interviewed the Mayor of Hackney and the Speaker of Hackney Council. I interviewed them together. So that was kind of interesting. And then there's a guy called Bobby Kasanga, who is somebody who's in prison for a long time, came out of prison, and he had been a sort of promising football player and kind of lost his professional footballing career because of being in prison, came out, turned his life around, and has done a lot to promote football within Hackney, but also to combat gang violence and gang crime. So he's a bit of a local hero, really. And then I interviewed a fantastic musician called Pax, who's originally from Malawi, who has helped to kind of reinvent the Hackney Carnival, which now is certainly reckoned by people here to be sort of better than the Notting Hill Carnival. It's smaller, more manageable, and kind of more enjoyable, I would say. So
nice. Yeah, I still keep on meaning to go to Notting Hill Carnival. Something always seems to happen.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be away this time, and next year is my sister's wedding on that weekend.
Well, try the Hackney
One
Carnival.
Day. Yeah.
In September. So.
That could work perfectly.
Yeah.
Cool. During your interviews, do you have a favourite question to ask people?
I always ask everybody at the end if there's something else that they would like to add. I kind of go through my questions and then I think maybe I've missed something. And weirdly, that's often when the most interesting stuff comes out, that people are just freed up to think, oh, I didn't say so-and-so. And so, yeah, that's my standard question. Right. Yeah, the only routine I have is I try to do a headstand every morning. I get out of bed and do a headstand. Yeah.
Really? Like first, like straight away? Straight
away. If I think about it or plan it, it tends not to happen. So I just get out of bed and do a headstand.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you not like worry about fainting or something?
No. I think I'm just used to doing it, so it's fine.
Okay. If I worked out that if I do like a back stretch, as soon as I just get out of bed, I faint.
Oh no!
Yeah. It's amazing. I did it for like a whole week in a row just to like check that it happened.
Wow.
And it did. It's really funny.
Really intense.
So don't do that when I get out of bed.
No, not a good idea.
But I have been meaning to like get better at handstands. So
if
I just did that as soon as I got out of bed every day, then at least I would have practiced a bit, and by now I would be handstanding like a boss. So yeah, maybe I should add that to my day. That's cool. So no other routines or habits at all, like
nothing I can think of. No.
Any kind of consistency in like breakfast or?
Not really. What I tend to do everywhere I go is eat loads of bananas. That's my trademark, is like loads of bananas.
Okay.
So I love going to countries where they grow their own bananas. Yeah. And then I'll eat
like 3 a day? What are we talking?
Sort of minimum 3 a day. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
Ideally more. When I was in Kenya, it was sort of pretty much all day banana eating. Yeah.
Cool. My grandparents had a carer, and for 1 week they had this vegan carer, and like she started this message for like the shopping list, like being like, don't be surprised by the amount of bananas in this list, by the way, before. And then we started reading the list, and it was like, oh, 1 pack of bananas, and there's nothing else. And then at the end, it was like also 94 bananas just for me. And you're like, how? 1 week? How do you?
Wow, that's.
Why do you need all of this other food that you've listed if you're eating like 14 bananas a day or whatever it is? Like, well, it's like
pretty intense.
I don't understand how you can eat that many. Like crazy vegans, apparently. Okay, so what, have you always liked bananas?
Yes, maybe it was partly growing up in Malawi.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I had a friend that only ate bananas for a whole month once as a child.
Oh, wow. That's really weird.
Pissed his parents off a lot. Doesn't like bananas anymore, obviously.
Aversion.
Yeah. That's cool. So do you do much with your bananas? Because of now that I have gone vegetarian and tried to be more vegan, I've realised that you can do quite a lot. Like you can make like banana pancakes, like where you make the whole pancake out of banana.
Oh, cool.
And it basically
Yeah.
tastes like a pancake but slightly sweeter.
That sounds really nice. I
And
need to try.
yeah, it's nice.
Yeah.
And there's no flour or egg or
Yeah.
anything in it, and
That sounds amazing.
good. And also, it works really well as a base for ice cream. So if you just like blend it, stick it in a freezer,
Yeah.
you can then add like mint and like chocolate chip or
Yeah.
berries or peanuts or honey or whatever.
Yeah.
And it just works as a base for ice cream
Oh, cool.
and is fairly cheap.
Yeah.
And no other things in it. So that's good.
Pretty amazing.
Otherwise, so you haven't done either of those things.
No.
So you just eat bananas normally.
Yeah.
Slice them in a yogurt or like.
Slice them in yogurt,
Sugar
just eat them
and
just
honey.
as they are. Yeah.
What about cooked bananas? Like, but the barbecue bananas, surely as a child.
Sounds
that's
good, but I
Never
should
done
probably
that?
do it. Well, in the distant
Banana
past,
fritter?
maybe. Banana fritters, yes. Yeah, definitely.
Okay. If you're like buying a waffle or like a pancake and one of the options is chocolate and banana, is it always that option?
Probably it would be. Yeah.
Okay. What if you just eaten a banana and you'd be like, oh, maybe not?
No, I
Or
never get sick
never
of
had a problem?
bananas. No. I probably could eat 94 bananas in a
Cool.
week.
So obviously, if you could only eat one fruit for the rest of your life, it would be banana.
Yeah.
What if I said you couldn't ever have a banana again? Do you think you'd replace it with like a new thing that you'd ate all the time, or would you just randomly pick whatever happens to be there?
Well, if I could replace it with mangoes, I don't think I'd be too sad.
Yeah?
I think mangoes are pretty
They're just
amazing as well.
Kind of
Yeah.
expensive and difficult to get
Yeah,
hold of most of the
yeah,
time.
yeah,
So if you're in the right country, you can eat mango all the time.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm like that with figs, but
Oh, yes.
it only really works when you're in like Spain or something.
Yeah.
During fig season, it's just
Yeah.
like, I'll eat figs endlessly.
Yes.
But like in Britain, it's like
It's a
£2 for a packet
pricey
for
habit.
pigs,
Yeah.
figs.
Yeah.
Figs. And they're not even very good. It's quite depressing. Okay, I just really love fruit. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I love fruit
I eat
as well.
fruit all the time. It's my favourite thing to do whenever I'm travelling. It's just like
Oh.
find all the fruits I've never seen in my life and buy
Yeah,
them.
yeah,
and
fantastic.
Have a fruit session.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so backtracking a bit to the fact that you always take a book with you. What are some of your favourite books?
Ooh, that's a very good question. Yeah, one of my favourite books is by the Australian writer Peter Carey, and it's about Ned Kelly, the outlaw. So it's kind of style-wise based on a letter that Ned Kelly wrote. So it's in his sort of vernacular, and it's incredibly funny and really vivid and really exciting. So that's a favourite book. I think a great place to go if you're going to do some travels is Daunt's Bookshop, where they mix up travel guides with novels about the country. So you can pick out your guide and then pick out a great novel. And yeah.
Yeah, I love reading books related to where I am. So like if I'm
Yeah.
in Greece or something, reading like an ancient Greek novel.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. Yeah.
read books about people like sailing past on war missions or whatever.
Yeah.
It's kind
Yeah.
of cool. Okay, if I was to put your mind back into your body many years ago when you were young, what thing would you definitely not do, but like butterfly effect and like meeting people still happen the same?
Gosh.
Just like what thing would you take back?
A big thing or a small thing or any kind of
Anything.
thing? Yeah. I think I went to university when I was too young. I was only 17.
Oh, wow.
And I think I should have done something else first, basically. I think I didn't get as much out of it as I should have done because I didn't really know why I was there.
Yeah.
So I studied African and Caribbean literature, so it was a great course. But I think I would have got more out of it if I'd been older. And I eventually went back to college. I went to Central St Martin's and I did a photography course. So it was kind of great to be able to just remake that choice and do something hands-on and practical, which I think suited me a lot.
Cool. How did you get to be doing university so young?
Just going through the Scottish system, I was kind of young for my year, and then you're just seem to be
yeah,
a bit younger anyway.
They
So
start, they didn't, they just do like a year longer course.
yeah, I can't quite remember how it works, but I was a lot younger. I mean, a year now obviously doesn't make any difference at all, but when you're that age, it sort of
it's
does.
big.
So yeah,
Definitely. That's interesting. And what thing would you definitely do? would do? You know what I'm trying to say?
yeah. If I had a choice, I'd do it again. It'd be
Yes.
going freelance, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of getting away from a desk-based job and feeling much freer, sort of physically and mentally as well.
Okay, cool. Similarly, maybe you already answered this, but what like bucket list item is the best thing that you've ticked off your list and everyone should do or have on their bucket list?
I'll tell you a place where I kind of think really just visually absolutely amazing and not really super well known. It's a place called Matera in southern Italy. I went round southern Italy for Lonely Planet, and this is a cave city dating back 7,000 years. It's incredibly spectacular, very weird. It was sort of partially abandoned and now has become more of a touristy site. But yeah, I don't know if everyone should necessarily go there, but it's somewhere that I'm really glad that I went to. Yeah.
Okay, well, if your house was to catch fire, now that you didn't have much in your house anyway, what is the one thing you would save? And you can't say passport or phone.
Oh, I actually don't think that. I mean, I guess it would be photos, but there's not any one thing that I do feel hugely strongly about. I think if I could escape the fire, I'd feel pretty glad. And yeah, anyone else in the house could get out too, then that would be fine.
That would.
Yeah.
Is there any advice in general you want to tell me or think that I should know?
Wow.
Or anything you want to know from me?
I think you sound like you're extremely well-travelled dude anyway. And I'd love to hear about Kazakhstan. Once you've been there, give me some feedback. Tell me if you think it's worth the trip.
Sure. Really excited for that. I have no idea what's going to happen there. What advice would you give yourself besides go freelance? Or I guess 5 years ago. What advice would you give yourself 5 years ago?
5 years ago. I think 5 years ago, I was pretty much in the same state of happiness that I am now, really. So I probably have to go further back in time. Don't smoke, maybe.
Yeah? That's good advice.
It's very bad for you.
Yeah, so you gave that up?
Yeah, I gave that up. Yeah.
How long ago?
That was a long time ago. Actually, I can't really say this because my parents will listen to it. That's really pathetic because I'm 47 years old and so I'm worrying about what my parents think. But maybe I'll just forget that bit. What else could I think of? I actually wish that I'd gone vegetarian. I really thought about it quite seriously maybe about 15 years ago and I didn't quite have the strength of character to do it, and I feel kind of relieved to be a vegetarian, so I wish I'd give myself the advice to go vegetarian.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you think it would have been harder though, because like now it's quite easy, there's so many more options, I think?
Yeah, maybe it would have been harder. It would have been a bit more boring. I think now the options are kind of pretty amazing, really.
Like restaurants, maybe it's not so good still, but like cooking for yourself is super easy.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Hackney's actually brilliant for buying really amazing ingredients as well. All the Turkish corner shops have gone all organic friendly and have a fantastic range of produce. So cooking is definitely no trouble as a vegetarian.
Okay, one thing I really do want to ask now, although if you deeply request this, I will take it from the podcast, but how long did you smoke for without your parents knowing?
Like years, like decades.
Yeah.
But maybe don't put it in the podcast, but like, God, 15 years, something like that. Yeah.
And you're like a heavy smoker?
No, I was like a social smoker.
Okay.
Really. Yeah. So
did you ever buy your own cigarettes though?
Yeah, but then latterly I was always scrounging them off other people, which was another reason to give up. So
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And what was the process like of quitting?
It was incredibly easy because I subconsciously, without planning it at all, just stopped when I went freelance because I think I realised I was going to have to look after myself. It was kind of making me ill. I didn't want to be ill. And so I just stopped and never looked back. That was just the end of it, really. So,
cool.
So I think I've smoked maybe twice since I went freelance. But yeah.
Okay. Do you find, because I know a lot of friends that sort of don't smoke much, but then when they're travelling, like cigarettes can be really cheap and things. They're like, I'm on holiday, and it's sort of like a mindset they can keep it like a separate box to when they're at home.
Yeah.
Do you ever feel like the urge?
Never in the slightest. It's completely gone.
That's good.
Yeah.
See, I've had some friends that sort of give up, but then like, they take it back out travelling, but then sometimes when they do get home, they're like, I'm just used to having a cigarette.
Yeah, no, I'm
That's
totally.
good.
totally.
I have one other friend, complete idiot, like smoked for a bit, gave up, but he was at uni. Before giving up, he signed up to this trial for smokers, like a psychology thing. You need to be a smoker, but you get like £100 or something.
No.
And so like 3 months later, after giving up, he got contacted, be like, oh yeah, we'll pay you £100 to come do these tests.
Yeah.
So he chugged like 2 packs of cigarettes like 2 days before his test.
No.
Did it, got the £100, did
Yeah.
some things. Probably like messed up the results anyway because of he like, awkwardly did that.
Yes.
And then has been smoking ever since. And you're like, bro, that was totally not worth £100.
And how much would he have spent on cigarettes?
So much.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm still so annoyed that he did that.
That's really dumb, isn't it?
Yeah. Possibly the stupidest life decision I've ever seen. But anyway, moral of the story, just don't smoke. Cool. And then, have you got any questions you want to ask me? If that's your favourite question.
Let me think. So what, have you got a travel experience or a place that's changed you, do you think?
Yeah, quite a few. Depends on what way you say it's changed. I guess one thing that changed me quite a lot was when I got arrested in, not Bolivia, the next country I went to, Paraguay, which was completely stupid. Like, we shouldn't really have been arrested, but we'd walked into this hotel and booked a room, and we were having like breakfast, and it was like during the World Cup, and England lost over breakfast, and we were on the border with like Argentina and Brazil, so we're like, okay, there's nothing really going on here. Argentina's about to play, there's going to be a party going on, let's just go to Argentina. So instead, like, we just paid for breakfast and tried to leave because we didn't have any other currency left, so like, oh fuck it, why do we want to pay for a room we haven't stayed in? And the man wanted us to pay because we were British and stuff, and wouldn't let us out, and like sort of like jail bars like came down across the whole hotel. We couldn't leave, and then like we were like, whoa, that's a bit OTT. And then the police came and like started like beating us and like put us in the car and then took us to this jail and like locked us in the cell and things. And eventually we just like talked our way out of it, and like I had like some Spanish and made some like comments about James Bond, and like, there's one point where we're like, maybe we should just give them like the $100 note we have, like just in case that they don't know about. Yeah. Because they were just trying to get money out of us. Oh. And then there was a big scary man that looked like he was going to rape me. Oh. Out of the two of us, my friend was kind of like lanky, and I was kind of short and cute, and I was definitely the one that was going to get raped. And I was like, okay, this is super awkward. Yeah. But somehow we got out of it and left, and I guess that process, it was kind of quite funny by the end. It kind of turned into a bit of a joke when like they knew that we knew we hadn't done any wrong, and like eventually we sort of ended up being kind of like, oh cool, we'll go for a beer, and it just sounded like a super funny experience. Wow. But like I guess it taught me that things can go stupidly badly wrong, and like you don't really need to know how it's going to go right, but like just something funny will happen, and
or something in your attitude can maybe help to change the situation.
So I guess it just taught me to not panic too much.
Yeah, that's a good lesson.
Basically. Brilliant. So yeah, that would be my story. That's probably the biggest change, I think. Yeah. I can go quite a few others now. Go on for a while. Yeah, any other questions?
I'm racking my brains to think of places that maybe I should have mentioned or something, but...
What was the first place you went to when you started? Your first contract?
It was Madeira.
Yeah?
Yeah. Taking photos. I was there New Year. And yeah, it was kind of fairly random. Not somewhere I would have chosen to go necessarily. It was never on my list. Didn't really know where it was. And I think that's been the thing that I've liked best about my job, is going to places in the UK and around the world that I would not have gone to otherwise. Yeah, I think I've spent, I worked on, for example, a rough guide to camping, and went to bits of England that I wouldn't have gone to otherwise, like north of Norfolk and Shropshire and lots of different places.
I'm from Shropshire.
There we go, it's beautiful.
Yeah, everyone should visit.
Yeah.
Ludlow, did you go to Ludlow?
I went to Ludlow and I thought it was gorgeous.
Go to the food market?
Yes. So I think that always feels lucky to think, well, I never would have thought of this place, I never would have planned this, and that's been really fun. Okay,
so did you used to have like a list of places like, I really want to go to these, then you now like not so bothered, you're just like, actually anywhere will be cool?
I think anywhere would be cool. I still haven't been to Morocco, and
Yeah.
that's high on my list. Yeah, I would like to go to Morocco, but lots of places I'd really like to go back to. I would love to go back to Fiji sometime. But yeah, lots of travel writers specialise. So I've got a friend who really just writes about Cuba. She also writes a bit about Vietnam and Laos, but
cool.
mostly she's a Cuba expert. So I think lots of travel writers go down that line of becoming the known person for a particular country, and I've never really done that. So I think there's pluses to both approaches, but I kind of like the random aspect of just I could go anywhere really.
Yeah, I like not having too much of a plan.
Yeah.
And knowing that like something fun's gonna happen,
Yes.
rather than being like, oh, this is everything, and
Yeah.
it's a bit like worrying for me,
Yeah.
I think. Okay, cool. All right, thanks so much. And then just like your current projects, and how do people get in touch with you?
Yeah.
You could just send me them and I can say them.
It's just very quick, but I'm just redoing my website at the moment to make it hopefully a bit nicer to look at. So it should be finished in the next couple of days, and that's
Before
Helena's.
I'll finish this. So.
Yeah. So my website, which is helenasmith.co.uk.
Helena
Smith.
Oh, Helena Smith.
Just my name, .co.uk.
Okay.
People can get in touch that way easily. So
And they can find out about like the Inside Hackney and
yeah, definitely Inside Hackney and my cookbook and
Cool.
future
Do you have
travel
a
projects and things.
Twitter account?
I do. I have several Twitter accounts, but and there's an Inside Hackney Twitter. Yeah.
The best one. Okay, cool. Thanks very much.
Okay, thanks a lot.
And that is the end of the interview. A big thank you to Helena for all the advice and stories and insights that she gave us. And a big thanks to the Church of England for providing a great recording location. Nice one, God. So Helena did give some great advice on travel, adventure, business, and as always, I like to record my main take-homes at the end of the episode. So number 1, pack minimally. The less stuff you have, the better your trip will be. Trust me. Like, baggage just drags you down the whole time. The more stuff you have, the more stuff you have to lose, the more stuff to carry, the more stuff to unpack and repack every time you stop. It's literally just a huge drain on your energy and attitude to do fun stuff, and ties you down. And just pack the barest essentials possible. Like, having a tiny backpack with everything you need is the most liberating thing you can do for a good travel experience. This can also be applied in general to life, as in the less you have and do, it's just the easier it is to take new opportunities and not be so entrenched and stuff. So, cool tip. Number 2, if you want to have a job as a travel writer, start writing. So this is actually pretty obvious in hindsight, but to get good at writing, you just need to do it. So by showing initiative and interest in writing about travel or local insights in your area, it's the only way to get started in the world of travel writing. So you can just self-publish on a personal blog, you can submit to online magazines and grow your base from there. You can also review things on TripAdvisor and answer questions and give advice on Quora. And in the modern age, doing something like Instagramming a lot wouldn't hurt either. And number 3, bananas are awesome. You can do lots of healthy alternative things with them and keep all your vegan friends happy. So basically, bananas are great and you can buy them anywhere in the world really cheaply, so you have no excuses for not having more bananas in your life. Also, don't smoke, kids, because that ain't cool. Moving on to books. So we did speak only briefly about books, but her absolute favourite book was The True History of the Ned Kelly Gang by Peter Carey. It sounds like a really interesting book, and I'm about to visit Australia, so I've lined it up in my next books to read. And that leads into the next tip she had about books, which was more for London-based people, about Daunt Bookshop, which pairs travel books with novels about the country that you're traveling to. So you get to read a nice story about where you're going, and I really, really like doing this and can't believe I've never heard of the Daunt Bookshop before, because it's such a cool thing to do. But I will fill you on some of my favourite travel book pairings because I think you should know about them. So some that really added to my experiences were The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafón which is a really beautiful, captivating tale from the early 20th century in Barcelona, and just one of my favourite books to read ever. Then the Caesar quadrilogy by Connor Goulden, which is all about Julius Caesar and Rome and Italy, and it's just an epic account of the man and interesting insight into history, and a good read if you're into more like manly books about war and stuff. It's cool. Another really great book was Tales of a Geisha by Arthur Golden, which is just a stunningly beautiful book about the last true geishas of Japan, and it follows the story of a young girl who goes to geisha school to try and help her family in like a troubled age, and she goes on to become like a leading geisha of the times. But it's when Japan's sort of catching up with the modern world, and it's just a really interesting book into a crazy country and a crazy lifestyle that doesn't really exist anymore in the world, and just has a lot of poignant life lessons about how to succeed and stay relevant in a changing world around you. And just really, really well written. Anyway, I've realised I now have a lot of good books I want to talk about and that I've read whilst travelling. And before I turn this into one long list of just stuff you won't remember, I will write a blog post maybe on this topic. And I'd love to hear anyone else's feedback on Twitter for advice on books and traveling together, because I think it's a really cool thing to do. I see one last book I shall mention is Nothing to Envy by Barbara Demick. I'm currently only halfway through this book. It's about North Korea and it is blowing my mind. I literally had no idea about what's going on in North Korea, and it's really fascinating and a shocking book about the crazy world of an entire country ran as like a big brother state. Follows the tale of several families and characters and the effects that politics, famine and desperation has on people, and just the amazing resilience of human beings and the shocking power of just information, and when it's controlled, what that can like do to you. And obviously I haven't actually been to North Korea yet, but I might be able to go, and that would be pretty damn exciting, so I'll update you on that side of things too. And oh god, I have some more books to mention, of course. So Helena, being a travel writer, has written two of her own books, Inside Hackney and Eat Hackney. So if you're in London and you plan to visit Hackney, well, if you plan to just do anything in London, then Inside Hackney is just a great resource for finding really cool stuff to do in Hackney. It just goes beyond the average guidebook and using TripAdvisor or something. It's just much better put together, and she's done a really good job of it, and you can find out more at insidehackney.com. Then for culinary travellers, Eat Hackney is your chance to get hold of and recreate the best food available in Hackney, all from the comfort of your own home. So I'm super keen to try the mung bean curry she already mentioned, and excited to see what other gems she has inside there, because it looked really good and I want to try some things. So that's www.eathackney.com. And you can also find out more information about Helena online at helenasmith.co.uk. And I'll put all the links in the blog post on this podcast anyway. So if you want to talk to Helena, you can find her on Twitter and Instagram using the name Inside Hackney in both places. And otherwise, you can reach me at Sam Harris Tweets. Always happy to have a chat. And that is now finally the end of the episode. And probably visit the blog post if you want to find anything about the million books I just mentioned, because they are all worthy of your time. And thanks a lot for listening, and I'll catch you next week. As always, thanks a lot for listening. If you found the podcast useful, please support me by rating the podcast on iTunes or your preferred app. Please become a subscriber and share your favourite podcast with others, as it really helps me grow the podcast. I'm Sam, and this has been another episode of the Growth Mindset Podcast. I hope you enjoy your day.